Hello, I am Bridget Fagan-Reidburn. I am the Director of Development and Community Engagement with Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And thank you so much for joining us today. This is What's Happening, a weekly online forum where we talk about a variety of subjects with leaders from across the state. But I'm sure you can see that your screen looks a little different today. I know you're used to seeing Connie Ryan, who is still on the screen, our executive director, interviewing folks, but today I get to be in the host chair. I'm going to remind you all, if you have questions, to post in the comments on Facebook there and YouTube. And I am so excited that we get to talk about the 25th anniversary of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. Did everyone know that this was our 25th anniversary year for both the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa and the Action Fund? So much has happened in the last quarter century, and we are very excited to celebrate all of the hard work that we have done together. So we thought it would be fun to use What's Happening to hear stories, some highlights, maybe some lowlights of the past quarter century. And just for fun, I get to host and interview Connie as she becomes the interviewee today. And Kristin Clark, she's going to join in this fun too. And I know she has, she's going to answer some questions as well. But before we get into that, I want to note that we are all wearing a different t-shirt in honor of the 25th anniversary. So we have a little online shop that we put up that you can get these t-shirts as well. And there's some tote bags and a fun notebook. So please, yes, here we are. So please check that out and get your fun stuff to wear for the 25th anniversary. But I'm going to get into our interview now. Are you ladies ready?
I think we are. Thanks, Bridget.
All right. Well, why don't you tell folks a little about yourself and how you got connected to Interfaith Alliance and began working for the organization.
Do you want me to start, or would you like Kristin?
Yes, Connie, why don't you start?
Okay. Well, I'm Connie Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa and Action Fund, and I have been honored to be in that position for 19 years. September 1st will be my anniversary of working as the Executive Director. I actually worked for the organization for about a year before that time. And I got connected because I was working on my master's degree and needed a practicum experience, and had heard about Interfaith Alliance, didn't know a whole lot about it, but I knew that they had done a lot of work, particularly in the greater Des Moines area, just standing up for justice issues on a variety of topics. And so I contacted them and asked if they wanted to have a conversation about potentially having a practicum student, master's level practicum student. And I was a little bit older than the normal student and had a lot of work and life experience. And so they said yes very quickly. And I said yes very quickly because I loved what the organization did. And then I particularly loved the intersection of my faith and politics and being able to do a lot of social justice work that connected the two. And so that's how I got connected to the organization and stayed ever since.
Awesome. Kristin, you want to share how you got connected?
I think Kristin might be frozen.
Yeah. See, just trying to get out of doing the interview part. Well, I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up in a progressive household, and so I've always been interested in social justice issues. Worked for another organization, and through that organization became aware of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, having done some collaborative work with the organization. So when the position, the brand new position, was advertised, I jumped at the chance to be able to work with Connie and the organization, and because I loved what it stood for. So that's how I got here, and don't regret it at all.
Well, good.
All good choices.
And I've been on staff since December of 2018, and mine was also a new position. And I'd seen the work that Interfaith Alliance of Iowa had done at the Capitol, because I was a lobbyist before I was at Interfaith Alliance, and Connie kind of took me under her wing there, and showed me some of the ropes there. So we've been all having a great time together, at least for those last few years. So we're the dynamic trio, I guess. So share a little bit about how Interfaith Alliance of Iowa came to be, and really, how it's changed over the last 25 years. And Connie, I'll direct this to you. Yeah.
Sure. And a lot of people have heard this story, but maybe not everyone. So in 1995, there was a school board election in Des Moines, and it became very contentious. There was a man who had been on the school board for about 12 years, and the religious right came into our community and made the issue of that election the fact that he is a gay man. So nothing to do with how he had served the community, nothing to do with any public education issues, but simply they took issue with a gay man being on a school board. Now you have to remember, this was 1995. Not that it couldn't happen now, but it was a little bit different time then. And there was not an organized progressive voice of faith or of no faith that was organized and that had the time to really get in and balance out what the religious right was saying. And so he lost. So it's Jonathan Wilson, and he lost to that election based on the issue of his sexuality, not on anything of really relevance to the election. And so that there was a small group of people who got together and said, that's not right. That's not what our faith tells us about who can serve and cannot serve. It certainly is not our faith that would talk about people in that way because of their sexuality. And so they really wanted to have a public voice that pushed back on that narrative of the religious right. Alicia Claypool was the really driving force of that early group and remained kind of that driving force in the early years. And then just a lot of other people in the central Iowa area that were part of that effort as well. Long story short, they organized and they formed Interfaith Alliance of Iowa out of that, and worked on not only public education issues then and fighting for LGBTQ rights, but began to work on a broader spectrum of issues as well. And those were the early years, really in central Iowa, and starting to have some reach in different communities.
Right. And can you talk a little bit more about how it's kind of changed over the years? I know it's even the work that we've been doing, even just since I've come on board in 2018, has expanded.
Yeah, and we have a little bit of a delay. So folks, sorry about that. That's just the nature of technology sometimes, but so forgive us if there's a delay between our questions and answers, but yeah, so we have grown just exponentially over the years. I was added, so Alicia Claypool that I mentioned earlier she served as executive director for a couple of years. And then I came on board as executive director in 2002, but I was part-time. And so having to split my time between two part-time jobs, really, because I worked for a congregation as well. And so in 2007, well, actually 2006, the board said, I have to be able to focus. And so they moved me to full-time. And we added Kristin in 2013, I think, and Bridget in 2018. Additional staff really helps us to do our work better and broader. And so the number of issues that we could become involved in, still really maintaining the mission of the organization and the focus of the organization, but we were able to do more and more work more collaboratively with other organizations, build our reach beyond the central Iowa area. We have stronghold really in eastern Iowa, particularly areas like Cedar Rapids and Iowa City and Waterloo, Cedar Falls, but we're able to do more work and empower more people to use their voices on religious freedom issues and civil rights issues, just a broad spectrum of issues. The growth of the organization has been phenomenal. And I think the impact then that we have is equally important and just kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is amazing. And, we've had conversations with folks about, maybe we have said too often, some pros of the pandemic have been that we've been able to connect with folks statewide because of technology, but it has really been exciting to be able to talk with folks from all over and really build that deeper connection around all sorts of issues. So we know we have a lot more to do. So Kristin, I'm going to ask you, start out with you on this next question. Do you have, can you tell us about some proud moments or things that stand out to you over the time that you've been part of the organization?
Well, just a general thought is that I'm so proud to be part of this organization because we take such a progressive stand and really inclusive of so many people and working on behalf of so many people. So that's amazing right there. One of the standout moments would be, I think, in 2017, after the Charlottesville horrific events there, we felt the need to gather community. And so we hosted a vigil in Coles Commons, and there were probably 700 people there, and all saying basically, we are standing up to hate, bigotry, and violence, and pledging to work together in community, being actively anti-racist. And so that was a really good moment to see that such an impact within the community. And we were standing together with communities around the country, standing up against the hate, bigotry, and violence. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And unfortunately, we've had to do more vigils. That wasn't the last one.
No.
Yeah. Connie, what about you? Do you have some proud moments you want to share?
Well, it's interesting, we didn't coordinate our answers at all. And so I had thought about also the vigil after Charlottesville. Anytime that we are using our voice in the public square, standing up against hate and bigotry and violence, standing up for organizations or people that are marginalized. Those are proud moments, and we do that time and time again. We actually have become known kind of as one of the go-to organizations to organize those. Unfortunately, we've had, as you said earlier, had to do too many of those, and a couple of or we partner with other organizations that are organizing them as well. We may not be the driving force of that, but certainly the rally in Coast Commons, which is in downtown Des Moines, the Tree of Life event that was at the synagogue in Des Moines on Polk Boulevard, 1,000 people were there and ended up, they could not all come into the synagogue. There just wasn't room. And they ended up encircling the synagogue. And that was just an amazing event. The event after the New Zealand shootings at a mosque, and had a vigil at a church in Des Moines, and 400 or 500 people were there. Just time and again, it is heartbreaking to do those vigils and rallies, because they come because of somebody being harmed, somebody experiencing hate, somebody experiencing violence or death. But it is also a proud moment to be able to be one of the organizations that is standing up against that as well. And we take that role very seriously, and hope that we can bring people together to take a stand against that. So those have been important moments in the organization's history.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about partnering. Collaboration and partnership is a big theme in the work that we do. Why is that important? And who are some of the folks that we work with on our issues?
The organization, Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, has always collaborated with other groups and other organizations, and not just the faith community. The faith community is an important piece of that. But when we bring together, we believe strongly that we bring people together from different perspectives on a common issue, on a common project, that we are better when we are doing that work together and when we are bringing folks together. And it also strengthens the progressive voice in our state to do that work when we build those relationships ahead of time, and when we can do the work together. And so we work with a huge, long list of organizations, certainly faith communities, faith organizations, denominational offices, all of those we work with on a regular basis, and not just mainline organizations. We do our best to work with people wherever they are on a particular issue, and sometimes we can work together, and sometimes we go our separate ways. But we also work with Iowa State Education Association, the Teachers Union, all of the labor groups, AFSCME, IFL, CIO. We work with One Iowa, Iowa Safe Schools, Planned Parenthood, ACLU, Just Progress Iowa, just a long list of organizations. And I always am a little fearful when I start listening, because I know I'm going to forget somebody really important. But know that we love you if I did forget you. But we have built so many good relationships over the last 25 years. And what that does then in building those relationships is we can come back and say, will you work with us on this? Will you work with us on this? There's an issue that needs your voice on it. Will you join with us? And I think we have strong relationships with lots of different organizations. And so we're able to do that when we can.
And Connie and Kristin, this is, difficult work. Not everyone likes what we do. What have been, I know, I think we reach out to everyone, and everyone should agree with us. But
and all the emails and all the phone calls that we get there are all just very supportive.
Positive.
Exactly. Well, but besides all that, what have been some of the most difficult times and challenges over the last 25 years?
Well, we do get those emails, and we do get phone calls or phone messages, usually in the middle of the night messages. We've a couple of times had flyers attached to our door that are hate flyers, and we certainly pay attention to them and make sure that they're not intending harm, physical harm to us. But that really is not the hardest part of it. For me, the hardest part are when things are happening to people who are marginalized, people who have been historically fighting for their own human and civil rights, and watching things happen in our state, in our society, that are continuing to harm them. You know, a lot of times that's at the State House, and that is hard work to continually, every day, week after week, year after year, having to fight those same battles. And we may not be living the harm that's happening, but we are very much invested in that work. And that is, watching somebody else get potentially harmed is hard. The other piece that I would say is when things are happening that harm systems, and we all know that systemic change needs to happen, but there's also things that happen that actually harm the systems. So like the courts, or people's civil rights being harmed through the misuse of constitutional amendments, public education being harmed by public policy or underfunding, those kind of things. And that is hard work to do, again, each and every day, year after year, because it is impacting real Iowans. And it is difficult to be in the midst of that. It just can suck so much out of you when you're doing social justice, human rights work day in and day out. It is good work to do, and I'm glad that we're doing, but it is also difficult work.
Absolutely. Kristin, anything that stands out to you?
Well, what she said. Ditto. Yeah. No, but truly, that is it, to know that we need to host vigils or whatever, just because of the fact that there are people hurting and suffering, and while we don't know exactly what that feels like, we do what we can to help bring about change. Yeah, so that's it.
Mm-hmm. Connie, you talked a little bit about the State House just now. You've been up there a long time. You've been involved in the public policy side since you began. What are some of the accomplishments that stand out public policy wise?
Well, first I'd say you make me sound really old because I've been up there a very long time, but
Well.
but I have. You're right. So first thing I would say is that you have to look at how you define success, how you define accomplishment, because in the education and advocacy world of a nonprofit, social justice nonprofit, you can't always define success because you won something, because you got the most votes. A lot of times in our work, we are successful because we have stopped something. And we always do that work in collaboration. There is nothing that happens up at the State House that just one group ever does. And I've said this before, that like if somebody says that they're only, that they won something, they did it all on their own, they are lying, because nothing up there happens on any, one group doing anything. So we always work in collaboration at the State House as well. And we have been successful in stopping a lot of really bad legislation, and that is an accomplishment, and that is a win. Now there are other things that we did not stop, and that is hard to wrap your head and your heart around. But you have to take those wins when they happen. And so, for example, of stopping something, the 1619 project that was introduced as legislation to ban schools from using it as curriculum. And that was stopped because a whole lot of Iowans raised their voices and said, no, we're not going to put up with that. Now, will that come back again? Probably, but we will continue to do that fight. We had 15 or 16 horrible bills this year that were anti-LGBTQ. And we helped, along with a whole lot of organizations and other organizations taking the lead, to stop that. And we were successful this year. And then we move on to another year. And so, in public education, we have so far, knock on wood, been successful in stopping a voucher bill. Now, we lost on other things like charter schools, but we have been successful so far year after year on voucher bills, and we will continue to do that work. And the success of that is not just the organizations, not just Interfaith Alliance of Iowa and Action Fund, but it is the success. It is the hard work of Iowans across the state who use the information that we send out or that other organizations send out to talk with their lawmakers and to use their voice. And so a lot of what is important about our work is empowering people across the state to use their voices. And that is a huge success.
It does feel like at the beginning of every legislative session, I come to you like, what is going to happen? It sounds horrible. And yeah, a lot of horrible things do get through, but it never ends up usually being as bad because of the work that you do up there, the collaborative work of so many people. And what I love too is that, we bring real life people up to the legislature to talk how it will impact them or their faith communities or whatever. So it's really, really important work. I just want to remind folks, if you have any questions or comments, to post in the chat. To keep on this politics train, it seems like the tenor of politics has shifted over the years. I think we can all feel that. Do you think that's true? And how has that impacted our work?
Yeah, it really has shifted, and that is to really the detriment of our state, our nation, our democracy. And so the first time I was really involved at the State House was back in this is going to date me, and I'm not sure Bridget was even alive, but in the mid-1980s. And
I was alive in the mid-1980s, but yeah.
And I worked for a legislator. I was a clerk for a legislator, and I was so excited to be there. And I just remember walking up the grand staircase, one of those first few days, and I just was excited to be there. I actually had been in the State House many times before because my mom proofread when I was a kid. She worked during the legislative session, so I was familiar with kind of the work up there and the ambiance up there. Anyway, and so in the 80s, there was always disagreement. There's disagreement between the parties, but it was always civil, and they went out to dinner with each other afterwards, and they went to events together across party lines. There was not the divide even on the floor of the House. Right now, the floor of the House where people sit are very divided. Republicans very much on one side, and not so much the House, but they're a little bit more mixed. But the Senate is very divided. The Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other side. And just the tone and tenor of the debate sometimes, and the calling out the personalized attacks sometimes that we're hearing in politics in general, not just at our State House, but in general, and the divide between progressives, if you will, and conservatives, if you will. And there's even, there's fractions in each of those definitions as well. But it has become more contentious, and I don't know how we come back from that. But I think that it can only swing so far. And then I hope that we're able to come back and find some way we can have our differences. We can fight hard. But at the end of the day, we're all still humans. And can we find a way to treat each other with a little bit more dignity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have some big issues and problems that we have to work together on, and somehow we have to find a way to make some progress. So,
right.
So we've talked a lot that we're 25 years old, not to make Connie sound old. So what are some of our what are the plans, some of our plans for the future? What are you excited about for the future?
Yeah, and this will evolve over the next year or so, and our board giving input. But what we really envision is addressing the question of how do we continue to grow and grow with intent, not just grow because, kind of like church where you have more people in the pew kind of thing. Growing for just having more numbers is not the purpose, but really empowering more people to be able to use their progressive voice and take action and have influence and impact. So continuing to grow and outreach and that impact. We really want to dive deeper into smaller communities, particularly in Eastern Iowa, hopefully into some rural areas. And that really is about building the progressive voice in those communities and being supportive of folks who are there. There is a progressive voice in smaller communities, rural communities, even in northwestern Iowa, I dare say. But we're going to start by focusing probably on Eastern Iowa and how do we connect with folks and help to build that voice, build that power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. When we're talking about the big issues that we need to work on, building a bigger tent, bringing more people into that work is going to be really important. So tell us how, I know some of this, but tell us how we are celebrating the big milestone of the 25 years of bending the arc.
Yeah, I hope you know it. Well, we started off the year, I think it was in February, and we launched a new program that it's not one of our weekly or monthly programs. It's just going to be a periodic kind of program. And we're calling it Bending the Arc, Building a Movement for Change. And we had Janae Bates. It was a Zoom call, so to speak, had about 100 people on it. And she talked about really building change and how you do that on the ground. And so that will be intentionally about skill building in the progressive community. So we had that first one, look for others to happen, like I said, periodically, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, that we bring somebody in. And, we'll see if we keep it on Zoom or if we move it to in person at some point in time. Zoom really allows more people to participate from around the state. So we'll kind of look at that as we hopefully someday get out of the pandemic. Another piece that we're doing is, and Kristin can chime in here as well, telling our stories. So, this is not about just the 3 of us and doing the work. This is about a lot of people that do the work across the state and for many years. And so we wanted to highlight some people that have been with us doing different parts of the work. And so each week we have an e-newsletter. If you don't know we have an e-newsletter, then you should sign up for it. But each week we've been highlighting a different person that has done some meaningful work or been connected, or actually a couple of newer folks as well, because you connect with organizations at different points on the timeline. So, Kristin, do you want to talk about the 25th anniversary?
I was just going to post something, so you keep going.
All right. Kristin gets to do double duty. She's taking care of the comments and posts and part of the conversation too. So on August 30th, and we can talk some more about this in a little bit, but on August 30th, we have the what has been our annual award dinner. And it also is going to serve as our 25th anniversary. And so have 3 featured speakers, community leaders, and then giving our awards to folks. And so that's going to be a fun event. It is both in person and virtual. And so that's August 30th. And then the last one I would highlight are, again, our t-shirts. And we're partnering with Ray Gun on them. So it doesn't necessarily look like the typical Ray Gun print, but they are helping us to have that online store. So you can click on the link that I know Kristin has posted and see the different opportunities. There are these 3 t-shirts and then a tote bag and a notebook, and who knows if we'll add anything else, but we're excited to do that. So that's what we've been doing to celebrate the 25th anniversary.
And I'm going to add one more thing in there is the videos that we've been sharing with folks. So I hope folks have seen the first 2 videos that we've released. The first one was about the early years of the organization. And then we released a video about our work in the public square. And then this week, so be on the lookout, we are releasing another video around some of our collaborative work. So they've been really great to just, even for folks that have been around a long time to learn even more about the organization and the work that we've done over the past 25 years. So you talked a little bit about the award dinner, obviously our biggest celebration of the year. It's coming up on August 30th. Kristin, what are some of your favorite parts of the award dinner? And is there anything that we can share that'll be special about this year?
Sorry, doing another posting.
It's like always you with like when you put a piece of food in your mouth or whatever.
Well, I'm super excited about this year. Instead of having a keynote speaker, we are having community speakers. And I'm really excited to hear what the 3 speakers will be saying. It's Reverend Bridget Stevens, and Pastor Rob Johnson, and Reverend Dr. Jennifer Harvey. And I have posted the link in the comments about, and you can find their bios there. But yeah, they're all phenomenal people who have been very supportive of the organization, and we support them. And so it's just very exciting.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky to have such awesome people that are part of the work and that we can easily call on, because we were like, we want to do things a little bit differently this year, and
right.
And really emphasize and lift up some more local folks who are doing awesome work in the community. Connie, do you have some favorite parts of the award dinner?
Yeah, so in past years, we started off small. The first award dinner that I remember was back in like 2004, 2005, and I think there were 75 people in the basement of a local church. So very small, and we've each year gotten bigger and have kind of in chunks moved to different places. As we've outgrown something, we've moved to a new place. And so we've been at the Iowa Event Center now for several years. For me, the best part is, since we've been in the Iowa Event Center, there's an atrium area. And at some point in time, I kind of like just turn around and look, and there's just this sea of people. And I never realized when I started this work how many friends I would make from it. And there's people always that, I don't necessarily know, guests of somebody who brings them, and that's fun to get to know new people. But it's just kind of an amazing thing to see all of the people, and obviously not all the people who support Interfaith. There's more people who, are at home or can't attend or whatever, but to see all the people who are present, who understand the work that we do and are invested in it, and love the work because it is such important work. And it's just fun to see. The other part of that is, there's a point where I go up on stage to welcome people and talk, and just again, seeing that sea of people, because for me, it really is all about relationships. And so it's fun to just see all of our friends there.
Yeah, this will be my 4th award dinner. And I was like, how many have I been to? And I feel like they're better every year. And I'm so glad we're going to have a virtual option as well for folks this year who can't attend in person. And it's going to be a great. So we've talked a lot about the different work that we've done. If folks want to get involved with us, how can they do that, Connie?
Yeah, so if you're not on our email list, I can't imagine anybody watching this isn't, but if you're not on our email list, definitely do that. You can go to the website, interfaithallianceiowa.org, and there's a button there that you can join the email list, and or you can contact Kristin directly. She's the person that manages that, so it's just Kristin@interfaithallianceiowa.org. So definitely do that piece of that. Join us when we do have events, whether they are online or whether they're in person. Definitely, join us for those. We have Intersections, which is our monthly luncheon that was fully virtual last year, and we're going to start in September being in person. So that's in Cedar Rapids. Crossroads, which is our luncheon in Des Moines, is not quite yet ready to start up. Trying to figure out location and such. So look for that hopefully in the coming weeks. We'll have more information on that. Another way you can be involved is to take action. When we send out action alerts during the legislative session, or when we send out alerts about something happening in a community across Iowa, that something is happening, we don't send that information out lightly, and we really do want you to take action on that. So that could be talking with a lawmaker, or talking with a local elected official on an issue, whatever that may be. We really do need you to use your voice, and the reason why we exist is to empower people to use their voices. Another way that you can help is to help us build our collective voice, especially as we are, as I talked about earlier, the outreach into smaller communities in Eastern Iowa. If you know folks who should know about Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, connect them, send them the website and say, this is an awesome organization. Connect them with Bridget or me if they want to have a conversation. And we need your help in connecting with folks in different communities, and to build the strength of this organization and to support what's happening in communities. And then lastly, I would be remiss, and Bridget would throttle me or something if I didn't say support our work financially. We cannot do this work without the financial support of folks from across the state. The vast majority of our funding comes from individual households. We get some grant money, we get some money from congregations, and those are all important, and we're grateful for those. The vast amount of the money that comes in that supports the organization are from people who are watching today and everyday Iowans who believe in religious freedom, but that religious freedom not be used for discrimination, that they believe in the civil rights and protecting the civil rights of all people, that they believe in civility and doing this work with civility, and all of the issues that we've talked about already today. So it is critically important.
Great. Well, thank you to Connie and Kristin. Thanks for letting me be the host today. I had a good time.
Can I just say you did an awesome job? So now I know that we might get to trade off some.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it later. But thank you to everyone who was tuning in. And I hope you'll join us for the 25th anniversary award celebration. If you haven't registered yet, please go to our website at interfaithallianceiowa.org to learn more and make a reservation. We do need your reservation by August 20th. So again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Stay safe, take care, and have a good week.
Bye, everyone.